What happens when two souls discover each other? You don't meet people, you recognize them. And maybe you've felt it before. That strange moment when a complete stranger feels uncannily familiar, as if they walked out of a dream you forgot you were dreaming. Why does that happen? Why do some connections feel ancient, even though they are new? To answer that, we need to look at something most people never notice: the tension we never question. Most relationships in the modern world begin in a rush to impress, a rush to be liked, a rush to become the version of ourselves we think another person wants. We perform, we polish, we try to appear whole. But deep down, most people are terrified of being seen for who they really are. That's why true soul recognition is so rare. Not because it's mysterious, but because most people never show their soul at all. This is the tension the awakened soul has already walked through. They have faced their loneliness, questioned their beliefs, peeled away the layers of who they thought they were supposed to be. So when an awakened soul discovers another awakened soul, the encounter does not feel like two people meeting. It feels like two flames remembering they were lit by the same fire. The moment of discovery. It doesn't happen with drama. There's no angelic choir or lightning bolt of destiny. Instead, something subtle shifts, almost like the room gets quieter, as if time itself pauses to watch. You're not looking at their face anymore. You're looking through it, into something ancient, steady, and strangely familiar. Have you ever felt that? That moment where you aren't just seeing someone, you're remembering them? It's unsettling, beautiful, uncomfortable in the most honest way. Because in that single moment, your soul whispers, "I know you." Why it feels like you're remembering, not meeting. When two souls discover each other, there is a paradox that Alan Watts would smile at. You feel like you're meeting for the first time, yet you also feel like you've known them forever. This happens because soul recognition does not come from the mind. The mind looks for logic. The soul looks for resonance. Think of two tuning forks. Touch one, and the other hums. It vibrates, not because of contact, but because of similarity. Awakened souls hum at the same frequency, and when they discover each other, the resonance is unavoidable, undeniable, irreversible, seeing without the mask. Most people hide behind masks. The confident one, the agreeable one, the mysterious one, the spiritual one, but awakened souls have dropped their masks, not because they want to, but because life forced them to. They've survived the storms that strip a person down to their essence. So when they discover each other, there is nothing to hide and nothing to prove. It's like standing in front of someone with no armor on and realizing they aren't carrying weapons either. There is safety in that, a rare, sacred safety, the silence that speaks. You know how some people fill every silence with noise? Awakened souls don't. When two such souls discover each other, silence becomes a language of its own, not awkward, not empty, but full of understanding, full of presence, full of the unspoken awareness that you don't need to perform here. You don't need to shrink or expand, just be. This is one of the clearest signs of true soul discovery. You feel more like yourself around them than you do when you're alone. The shift inside you, this discovery changes things. Subtly at first, then profoundly, you start noticing details, the calm in their voice, the honesty in their eyes, the way their presence feels like standing in warm sunlight. You start breathing differently, thinking differently, listening differently, because something inside you awakens too. Not because they complete you, but because they remind you of the parts of yourself. You abandoned it long ago. And here is the quiet truth. You do not discover another soul. You discover the parts of yourself that were waiting for someone who could finally see them. Why this matters. When this kind of discovery happens, life begins to shift. Conversations feel deeper. Small moments feel sacred. You feel more present, more alive, more awake. You begin to understand why certain connections drain you, and why a rare few fill you with light. Because when a soul discovers another soul, that recognition changes you. It expands you. It breaks your illusions gently. It invites you back into yourself. The door opens. But this is only the beginning, because what happens after two awakened souls discover each other is even stranger, even deeper, even more transformative. Once two souls recognize each other, they don't fall in love. They fall out of illusion. Strange, isn't it? Most people think a deep connection begins when something new enters their life. But between awakened souls, the real experience begins when something old falls away. You don't gain a person, you lose a layer. And this is where the story truly begins. The uncontrollable shift, the moment after recognition, is like stepping into a ripple that was set in motion long before you arrived. Once resonance begins, you cannot slow it, you cannot speed it up, and here's the paradox. The more you try to control it, the more it slips through your fingers. Have you noticed this? That the relationships you cling to crumble, while the connections you surrender to expand? That's because awakened souls are not held together by effort. They're held together by awareness. Awareness is magnetism, not the desperate kind, the cosmic kind. The ego can't keep its balance. Part 1 was discovery. Part 2 is where your ego starts sweating, because when two awakened souls move into resonance, the ego has no script left. You can't impress them. They see right through the performance. You can't hide from them. They perceive the silence behind your words. You can't pretend, because pretending suddenly feels ridiculous. It's unnerving and liberating. Alan Watts would laugh gently here and say, "This is the moment you stop trying to be interesting and start becoming interested." The paradox of feeling safe and exposed. You sit in front of them and feel two opposite things at once. Safe, exposed. How can you be both? Only awakened resonance creates this contradiction. Your guard drops. But because the guard realizes it has nowhere left to stand, they're not looking at your mask. So why keep wearing it? The mystery deepens in small moments. It's not the big conversations that shift you. It's the small moments. You say something simple, something you've said to others, and they hear it differently. You see them pause, not to judge it, but to feel it. Have you ever had someone listen to your words as if each syllable were a clue to the truth of who you are? It makes you aware of how rarely people truly listen. You begin noticing the subtle things, the way they breathe before they speak, the way they look at you as if they already know the answer, but won't rob you of discovering it yourself. The way silence grows warm instead of cold. These little moments accumulate, and suddenly, something inside you wakes up, the resonance that dismantles you. Here's the paradox nobody tells you. Awakened connections don't complete you. They dismantle you beautifully, not violently, not painfully, but truthfully. A truth you were avoiding becomes clear. A fear you buried rises without shame. A strength you forgot reemerges. A softness you denied becomes visible. You begin realizing they aren't revealing themselves to you. They are revealing you to you. Most people walk through life asleep inside a costume. Awakened resonance tears a stitch. Just one. But one stitch is all it takes for the whole costume to loosen. Cosmic humor enters the room. Awakened souls often laugh together, not because anything is funny, but because everything is. You laugh at how seriously you once took your dramas, your stories, your insecurities. You laugh at the cosmic joke that you spent years searching for someone who could finally see you, only to realize they don't actually see you at all. They see what's behind you, the awareness, the being, the part of you that has no biography. It's hilarious and freeing, the fear that most people run from. But resonance isn't all softness and serenity. There is a shadow here too. When someone sees you so clearly, you must face an uncomfortable truth. Now you have nowhere left to hide from yourself. This is where most people run. They get scared of the intensity, confused by the transparency, overwhelmed by the honesty. But awakened souls don't run. They recognize the fear as a sign. You are crossing the threshold from who you thought you were to who you actually are. The connection that moves by itself. Another paradox. You are drawn to them, but not because you need them. You are drawn because their presence accelerates your awakening. It feels as if life itself is nudging you forward, whispering, "Pay attention. Something important is happening here." You find the connection moving without effort, without planning, without intention, like two planets pulled by gravity. They didn't choose, but cannot deny. And then something shiftens. Deeper. Resonance is powerful, but it is not the deepest part of the journey. What comes next is the phase that truly transforms both souls. The phase where the connection stops being a mirror and becomes a catalyst, where presence becomes evolution, where reflection becomes expansion, where the soul is not just recognized, but awakened further. This is the stage most people never reach. This is the stage that changes everything. Transformation doesn't begin when you meet another soul. It begins when the person you think you are begins to collapse. And the strange thing is, this collapse rarely happens when you're alone. It happens when a presence enters your life, so steady, so awake, that your illusions can no longer survive in front of them. Once two awakened souls pass beyond discovery and resonance, the connection stops being a mirror and becomes something far more unsettling, a catalyst. This is where everything begins to shift. The moment the false self trembles. Until now, the connection felt familiar, warm, quietly mysterious. But transformation feels different. It is a soft earthquake, silent, but undeniable. Not because of anything the other person tries to do, but because their clarity exposes everything in you that is not true. Have you ever heard someone say a simple sentence that somehow rearranged your entire understanding of yourself? That's the threshold of transformation. It doesn't improve you. It dismantles you. It takes apart the version of yourself you built for safety. The paradox of losing what was never you. The ego hates this stage. It tightens its grip around the familiar and insists, "I know who I am. These fears are mine. This identity is mine." But the awakened soul standing in front of you asks without asking, "But what if none of that is actually you?" And suddenly, the illusion trembles, because the great paradox is this: you don't lose yourself in transformation. You lose the pieces that were never you to begin with. The conditioned beliefs, the inherited fears, the protective masks, the smallness you learn to live inside. Truth doesn't fight them. Truth simply makes them unnecessary. The door that opens on its own. Transformation rarely arrives with trumpets. It happens in the smallest, strangest moments. A question you cannot dodge, a silence that reveals your truth, a moment of eye contact that feels like falling into yourself. And suddenly, the locked door inside you, the one you avoided for years, opens by itself. This is why awakened connections feel dangerous. Not because the person is unsafe, but because the truth threatens the identities we cling to for protection. The beauty and discomfort of awakening. Awakening is both the most beautiful and the most uncomfortable experience of your life. Beautiful, because you finally begin to see your real self. Uncomfortable, because you must first see your false self. Your shadow rises, not to punish you, but to free you. A fear you thought you'd conquered returns. A buried insecurity surfaces. A forgotten longing knocks at your chest, asking to be acknowledged. Awakened souls don't flee from this. They meet it gently. Transformation doesn't require force. It requires courage. The courage to allow truth, the cosmic irony. Alan Watts might laugh softly here and say, no one transforms you. They simply stop helping you avoid yourself. The other soul isn't changing you. They are the catalyst that makes the invisible impossible to ignore. Your illusions unravel because you finally stop feeding them. Your fears soften because you stop believing them. Your heart opens because it no longer remembers how to stay closed. Their presence doesn't sculpt you into someone new. It reveals the one you've always been. The alchemy of presence. Certain people make you feel more awake simply by existing. Two awakened souls amplify this effect. You speak more honestly. You listen more deeply. You breathe more freely. You respond from awareness instead of habit. Their presence doesn't pressure you. It permits you. It allows you to relax into the self you were before fear edited you. Ironically, their presence transforms you into yourself. The shadow's last stand. Before the breakthrough, the shadow always makes one final attempt to survive. It whispers, "This is too much. You're changing too fast. You're losing control. Maybe you should step back." But awakened souls understand something most people never learn. Intensity is not a warning. Intensity is the truth approaching. You're not afraid of the other person. You're afraid of the version of yourself waiting on the other side of this transformation, the moment of surrender. Then comes a moment, quiet, effortless, when resistance breaks. You stop defending the old identity. You stop protecting the wounds. You stop negotiating with your awakening. Something inside you whispers, "Let go," and you do. The false self falls away, not with drama, but with relief. Surrender is not defeat. It is alignment. Your real self steps forward, as naturally as dawn dissolves the dark, the point of no return. And here is the most mysterious paradox of all. Once this stage begins, you can never return to who you were before. The door that opened will not close. The truth you saw will not be unseen. The self you awakened cannot go back to sleep. Everything you thought you were building toward disappears in a single moment of clarity. All the resonance, recognition, transformation, beautiful as they are, were stepping stones toward a single, quiet truth. A truth so simple, so obvious, so shockingly direct, that the mind almost refuses to accept it. The one you were discovering in the other was always you wearing another face. This is the final realization, the end of the journey. Not an ending that collapses everything, but one that softens everything, the collapse of two-ness. By the time you reach this stage, the sense of being two separate inner worlds begins to dissolve like mist in morning light. You still have your individuality, your life, your path. They still have theirs. But beneath all of that, something becomes unmistakably clear. Your consciousness and their consciousness are not divided, not fused, not merged, simply not two. A subtle shift happens. You stop looking at them and begin looking through them. It's like staring into a mirror that reflects a deeper part of you. You never realized you had a face. Alan Watts would call this the moment the universe stops pretending to be divided. Effortlessness returns. Earlier in the journey, there was intensity, recognition, resonance, transformation. But the final stage brings something surprising: effortlessness. No grasping, no proof, no fear of loss, no desire to control, no pressure to define. The connection becomes as natural as breathing, too simple for the mind to fully appreciate. Just presence, just awareness, just an unspoken understanding that nothing more is required. This is not detachment. It is maturity. It is the quiet perfection of non-need. You do not hold the connection, you allow it. The freedom of non-possession. Most relationships are built on subtle possession. My person, my partner, my soulmate. Awakened souls reach the end of the path and discover a different truth. No one belongs to anyone, and that is why connection becomes sacred. When nothing is owned, everything is appreciated. When nothing is clung to, everything becomes more alive. Non-attachment here does not create distance. It creates spaciousness, a space where both souls can breathe, expand, and simply be. The return to simplicity. After all the layers of awakening, there is a surprising return to simplicity. You no longer chase intensity. You no longer seek cosmic signs. You no longer search for meaning within the connection. Why? Because you have become meaning itself. You sit together in silence, and it feels complete. You speak, and there is no need to say more than the truth. Even the ordinary moments feel sacred, not because they are extraordinary, but because you are finally awake enough to see them. This is the quiet wisdom of the final stage. The extraordinary was always hiding inside the ordinary. You spend your whole life searching for someone who can finally see you, only to realize that the one seeing through their eyes was always the same awareness seeing through yours. It is all one dance, one consciousness, one infinite mind, momentarily pretending to be two. You don't lose yourself in the other. You discover the self that exists beyond both. This is the liberation, the humor, the miracle hiding in plain sight. The relationship outlives the form. By the end of this journey, you understand something profound. Even if the physical relationship fades, even if paths diverge, even if life takes you in different directions, the awakened connection does not end. It cannot. Because the connection was never between two personalities. It was always between two openings into the same awareness. Distance cannot weaken it. Time cannot erase it. Change cannot distort it. It survives because it was never made of conditions. It was made of consciousness, the final revelation. So after all the chapters, all the realizations, all the unfolding, what is the final truth? It is this: the soul you saw in the other was the same soul that was seeing. There were never two travelers, never two paths, never two awakenings, only one consciousness meeting itself in the mirrors of experience. This is the end of the journey and the beginning of understanding, not a dramatic ending, a peaceful one, not a conclusion, a recognition. The journey ends where it began, in the simple truth that consciousness is the one discovering itself through every soul it touches. That is the final realization.